we're live. So welcome. This is the Take It Offline webinar. We're going to get started very shortly. But yeah, just hello to Jerry White to begin with. So who leads Take It Offline? How are you, Jerry?
Hello. I don't think I necessarily lead it. I just one of the co-organisers, for a better word. In fact, leading is probably an exaggeration. That implies organisation of some sort. But yep. We one of the co-founders, co-organisers, everything. But yeah.
Brilliant. And yeah, so it's been actually quite. We're going to talk about Take It Offline in a moment. It's been quite a big week for you, there, hasn't it? So you had the Mirador launch last week.
Yeah, Mirador Local has kind of gone live, officially. Basically, it's been a couple of years that's been developed, and finally, we're kind of getting to the point now where we kind of go, yep, it's absolutely brilliant, and we're signing up customers, and we're in a good place. We had a little launch party, and I had a little hangover. And yeah, it's been good.
Excellent. So you're enjoying the move?
Yes, yeah, it's a great bunch of people to work with, great developers, great people. My boss is quite happy all the time. I've got two bosses, one's grumpy, one's happy. I won't say which one's which because they might be watching.
Love it. It's like the Seven Dwarfs. So yeah, we were there at the launch event last week. It was fantastic. And yeah, talking of events, we've obviously got the OMG event coming up this week, which is exciting. So yeah, that's on Thursday. But yeah, I think now we'll start with Take It Offline. So just to give you a bit of introduction. So I'm Vicky Simmons. I'm the Operations and Events Director at the OMG Centre. And we basically help accelerate the growth of agencies. So if you're a digital agency leader, it means that we can give you more time, more money, less stress, more quickly. So the next Take It Offline event is coming up on the 10th and 11th of November in Sofia, Bulgaria. And as Take It Offline is a partner of the OMG Centre, we thought we'd put together this webinar to tell you more about the event and why you should come along. So in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Jerry, one of the organisers of Take It Offline, to give a bit of introduction to himself and about the event. And then we're also going to invite in some more most likely familiar faces and to tell you a bit more about what to expect. So Jerry, over to you.
Okay, so Take It Offline is kind of something which started off in a pub many years ago, 2017, 2018, I think it was, and it kind of evolved a little bit. But one of the things that we haven't done is kind of gone into the area of being like a proper conference, for want of a better word. We've always kind of said, you know what, the connections that we get are as important as the presentations. So we generally find that the best kind of conversations are kind of in the pub afterwards, or where somebody said something interesting, somebody said something exciting, and we kind of get sort of trying to take that forwards. We are also stealing a lot of ideas from a conference called Measure Camp, which is basically an unconference and allowing people to kind of choose their own adventure, for want of a better word. They kind of have that thing where they sort of choose the sessions they go to. They can actually create a session on the fly. And a lot of people come with pre-planned sessions. I know you're going to come along with a pre-planned session, and I know there's going to be kind of actual kind of panels and other bits and pieces, but basically, as long as we keep the chemistry growing, as long as we get people talking to people, then there's a huge amount to learn from it. And it's also a great excuse to visit Sofia, which I've never been to. No, that's a lie. I have been to, but last time I was there was like 20 plus years ago, and I was kind of there on a snowboarding trip. So it's a long time ago since I've last been there. So I'm really looking forward to revisiting, and I've heard great things about the hosts, which is Nico and the people behind the conference last week and various other bits and pieces. So yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
Brilliant. Yeah, super excited. It sounds like a very well organised event. And there's also a great range of people that are going. And on that note, to introduce you to those people, I'm going to bring them on now. So we've got, I'll let them introduce themselves actually. So, hey, Aleda, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Aleda Solis. I'm an SEO consultant and founder of Or90, SEO FOMO, Learning SEO, Crawling Mondays. I have a lot of things going. I don't know how I do it, but I do it anyway. And I also finding and allocating time to go and connect with all of you wonderful people in the next Take It Offline, because as Jerry well mentioned, even myself, who I tend to go to many conferences, the reality is that I still, even with all of the conferences, I miss these times of like free interaction, laid back interaction that we'll tend to have at the end, at the networking event. And I'm very looking forward to have a full event of that with Take It Offline. So very, very happy to be able to participate.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Aleida. Sophie, do you want to do an intro?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so excited about Take It Offline in Sofia. It's my second time going to Sofia, so I actually cannot wait. It's one of the most beautiful places. But just to intro myself, I'm Sophie. I'm the director of SEO at a large e-commerce site in the US called Rush Order Tees. We do lots of custom t-shirts and really cool things like that, promo products, etc. This is my first Take It Offline event in person. I am working a little bit in the background with Jerry and the team just to kind of do a lot of promo and things like that for it. But no, super excited to go. I've heard so many good things.
I know you've been a big help, Sophie. So yeah, it's going to be great.
Someone needs to keep Jerry organised, right?
Exactly, definitely. Oh, brilliant. Natalia.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me here. So I'm an international SEO consultant. I'm based in Barcelona, but also try to travel around for different events. And I've just came back from Sofia. I was there last week on SERPConf, and kudos to the team. The conference was amazing, organized to the best bit. So I'm really looking forward to the next edition of Sofia in no time, really.
Oh, excellent. That's so nice that you've just been, and you'll be able to help show us some of the great places and bars, I assume.
Absolutely. I've had also good locals like Darby, for example, who's been a great host. So she's passed on some of the information already to the organizing team, and I'm sure we're going to be in good hands.
Fantastic. Well, we'll come back to that shortly. And Dan, certainly not last, but certainly not least.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you for having me. Yes, my name's Dan Taylor. I'm a partner and head of technical SEO at Salt Agency. It'll be my first time in Sofia, but I think it'll probably be my third Take It Offline event, having helped host a couple in the Leeds area over the past few years. So yeah, very much looking forward to it and adding another country to the wanderlust.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's the thing we've done. I think there's been a couple of Take It Offlines now. There's obviously a few in the UK and a couple abroad. So yeah, what a crew. I agree. Emmanuel. So yeah, let's just to kick us off then. Aleida, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you. And then obviously everyone feel free to chip in. But Aleida, I'd love to hear from you first, because obviously you travel the world a lot. You go to a lot of different events. And so from that perspective, thinking about Take It Offline, what is it, or how do you think it will contribute to growth and knowledge sharing within the digital community?
I think it can really give many insights that are not necessarily talked about at traditional conferences, because at traditional conferences, whether you pitch with your own topic, with the topic that you think will be attractive for the audience and that you have some experience with, or they have their own topics that they come to you and they propose to speak about that particular topic because of the same reasons. But there are always different areas or angles that tend to not be covered because of lack of time. You're allocated even 15 minutes. Oh my God, please don't do that. Or 25 minutes ideally to go a little bit more in depth. But there are always certain important and critical topics and resources and angles that are not covered because of these constraints, right? I'm very looking forward to participating in roundtables that will give more room and flexibility to talk and not only going through my experience and visions of the relevant topic that we're talking about. In my case, I am very looking forward to speak about e-commerce SEO, but I will be able to exchange ideas and balance my experience and takes with the ones of the other roundtable participants. And I also with a Q&A of the audience, of the public, I expect that it becomes much more rich, actionable, balanced, and at the end of the day, more meaningful because of this. And I really looking forward to have like in-depth conversations about this topics that where I might have some type of experience, but I'm very looking forward to hear about other people experience in these same type of scenarios or different scenarios where the solution might be different or not necessarily the same that I have found, right? So this is a type of approach that I believe can be certainly valuable, and I'm very looking forward not only to share but also to learn, right? This is the type of thing I believe that myself as a speaker, someone who speaks a lot, right? Or I'm always looking forward to learn. But if the talk is very well structured, because of the type of constraints that you have on the structure, you need to go through certain type of, let's say, concepts first, and the actionable bits might not necessarily be as meaningful, but in this case, I expect they are super meaningful, super actionable, and very looking forward to that. I expect that is the key that makes it very, very attractive for me to go to share and to learn.
Yeah, I think the size of the conference really helps with that as well. I mean, it's a much more intimate conference than a lot of other ones. As Aleida was saying, there's things like the round table, the networking, or the unconference on day 2. You've got all of these different types of things where you don't just sit and watch a presentation back to back. You do actually able to have those meaningful conversations. And it's not just SEO either. There's people with PPC backgrounds, digital PR backgrounds, but also to people who run agencies or working at agencies or freelancers, and they're starting their freelancing business. You've got people from all walks of life, different types of digital marketing channels, all coming together in one room, but in a much more intimate venue. So you can actually sit there and have that conversation and speak to whoever you really want to find out that kind of valuable info that you need. So yeah, it's definitely a really exciting one.
Love it. Thanks, guys. I think definitely from my experience of is that happening? So I think from my experience and Take It Offline is exactly that. In terms of what I love is you've got the format of it. It's different formats across the different days as well. So we've got the panels and we've got the round table. The unconference bit's always interesting because I think what I found is people might go to the conference with a particular idea about what they want to discuss, but actually to what you guys have just said, I think when the conversation starts to evolve and the discussion develops, actually there's things that crop up, and that's really nice when actually normally the second day we can get together and discuss that in more detail. And again, because of the range of people, it's not going to be focused on one particular area. And, the audience drive that as well in terms of what's discussed, which definitely makes sure that you get the most out of it. So I think that's really key. Dan, because I know you've been to a few Take It Offlines in the past. Is there anything else as well in terms of, knowledge sharing that you found beneficial, or, anything that might have helped your development or someone else?
Yeah, I kind of think building off one of the points that Aleida made, because of the style of conference, and it's not just sat watching a presentation, you kind of get more in-depth experience kind of being portrayed versus a more presentation, here's what we did, here's how we came, because especially with how SEO has gone in kind of, well, the past 2-3 years, especially now, it's moved as far away from being a box tick checklist as it has been, and the mileage variance that we all see across different sites in different sectors with doing the same thing varies so much, and we all experience such different things through our professional and personal lives as well. Having a forum in which to share those varied experiences is really crucial, and I don't think it's something we probably do as an industry enough. And I think Take It Offline's a perfect crucible to kind of encourage that and nurture that further.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, Dan's a expert on Edge SEO, and I went to a presentation or a chat with Jono and Simon, who are also going to be there. So actually getting Dan, Jono, Simon, Chris Green from Talk, and other people into a room basically, and kind of letting them talk about it. It's amazing how much you learn when you get the right people in a room who really know their stuff and can argue with each other. It's people who don't always have the same approach to kind of doing something. I mean, I'm notorious for kind of hacking stuff onto websites and trying to do bits and pieces to kind of get things done. And when I had a conversation with Dan once about basically the problems that I was facing with a Canadian website, which was based in JavaScript, Dan gave me hundreds of creative solutions to the problems. And it's kind of getting those conversations into a kind of space which you can do. It's the best kind of experience ever. I learn way more in that kind of environment than I would in any other environment.
Yeah, I have to say that I remember that a lot of people were mentioning during the pandemic, right? That one of the pros of having a lot of online conferences at that point was the opportunity to interact in a much more straightforward way without a script, and being able to say stuff that you wouldn't say otherwise, but still, because it is online and many of those were recorded, let's say that people constrain a little bit, right? I believe that hopefully in an environment that is more in person, laid back, also with a small number of people, still like we won't be 2,000 people, right? I believe that there are only so many people where you feel also comfortable sharing a certain type of things. It will incentivize people to share more too, and say things that they wouldn't if they will be given a conference in front of 2,000 people, 3,000 people that is recorded. So yeah, hopefully that.
100%. I think the honest panels are really like a huge part of that as well, because it's like no red tape, like proper fun stuff, completely honest, transparent approach, like about anything, literally anything. I say anything, digital marketing related. We'll keep it clean, but honestly, yeah, it's going to be amazing. The honest panels are going to be just next level, but definitely no recording of them just in case.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with the part about the honest panels, about everything that's been said. And personally, I have one more gain from going to that conference or that event, because conference maybe is too official. I feel like sometimes I'm very new to presenting in public, and always struggling with finding a right subject and answering the questions that people have, because sometimes it feels like maybe everything has been already said or written somewhere. So it's really hard to tackle those new topics. But on the other hand, there's so much confusion about SEO still. So it will be really good to listen what questions and comments are there, to still see what are the areas that need that further investigation and explanation. So I'm really looking forward to everyone who maybe is more junior and don't feel like they want to ask questions. This is the place to go and ask questions, because we want to know what the questions are.
And Natalia, I think that is a fantastic point. Like you say, like all the discussion. All the discussions, yeah, exactly. It's finding out a lot of new stuff, but I think that's such a key point, because I think, and we all work in different areas. Obviously, a lot of you guys SEO, but I think there's a lot of assumed knowledge, but also understanding what is exactly that. Like what we assume people know this information, or where's the appetite for it. From my point of view, from an operational perspective, not it was the sexiest topic, and actually I think some of the stuff I talk about, I feel like it's a given a lot of the time, but actually it isn't when you have the conversations. So recently, for example, I was talking to people about accountability in teams, and I think again that's something that I do want to discuss at Take It Offline, because you think, oh, if someone runs an agency, it's a given that actually we're going to know how to deliver all this work, but actually when you get into it, people are looking for I'd say like inspiration or just ideas on how to manage things. So so I just wanted to add that. And I think on that point, Natalia, actually that brings us on really nicely to the next question. So because I think we'd Take It Offline. So I think this will be your first one. Is that correct?
It is, yes.
Brilliant. So I think what's great is that you're a well-known SEO expert within the industry, and I think with that in mind, when it comes to the event, how do you think it can create a good balance between industry professionals such as yourselves and also newcomers? Because obviously the key thing about Take It Offline is that we want to create a collaborative learning environment. So how do you think the event does that?
So I think that's already been mentioned, that the setup of smaller groups and roundtables already breaks a barrier between the stage and the public. And I think that's crucial. I've actually had a sneak peek on the venue itself, and it's very informal, very straightforward. It's very easy to get that contact there. There's no high stage with this distance that you can sometimes see in other events. And I think also everyone goes there with the same incentive of breaking those barriers. So I think all of us here in this webinar itself, we go there to meeting people and open up. So that also helps, because this is the assumption of the whole idea and the whole community.
That's really, I think that's a really good point. I suppose, yeah, and also perhaps Jerry and Sophie, because you're organising the event, is there anything that you've been considering in terms of trying to encourage people, basically, I suppose, to get involved? You know, people that aren't necessarily, maybe they're newer to the industry or they're newer to take it offline. What will you be doing at the event to try and encourage participation?
Sophie, you want to take that one?
I was going to give it to you. You go for it.
I think one of the things to make sure is that people feel welcome. We do crazy things like ice-breaking games and stuff like that. I passionately hate ice-breaking games, but basically they do work. It's kind of encouraging people to kind of get to know somebody. I mean, it's that classic thing that when you go to an event and everybody sits in their kind of small bubbles, everyone speaks to everybody kind of shares a specialism, a bit of knowledge and everything like that, but they don't mix it up. It's how do you get people to kind of mix it up and make some new friends and go away with kind of like talking to somebody new in the day. And I think that's one of the great things that happened in Amsterdam, was the fact that we saw a lot of connections happen. I mean, my favorite story is the finding out that Andy and Sagan from Keyword Insights met to Take It Offline, and they kind of had this whole thing where they basically had a great time and that connection, and it led on to Keyword Insights today. And part of me does feel like I should be on commission, but they don't seem to agree with that. But what I'm getting at is that, you know, these kind of connections, these kind of meeting somebody new and finding out a different way of doing it. I mean, Andy is one of the smartest content marketers I've ever met. And when I saw him kind of talk, and when I've been speaking to him at kind of offline events, I've been learning so much from him and sort of getting him to kind of speak to other people. It's going to be a driver for me in my current role working with Dan at Mirador. It's something which is really important to me, to kind of be able to learn from how other people have done stuff. So I'm going to be learning a huge amount. And in terms of getting new people to speak and new people to kind of get and engage, I think that's kind of the biggest challenge, is making people feel like they're relaxed. And it's not just with a drink, or it's not just with kind of a, you know, but it's making sure the entire audience is that kind of engaged and happy to listen. It's amazing how many people in the industry at the moment, I can think of so many names, I'm not going to mention them, but are kind of coming up at the moment who really know a huge amount more than I do about GA4 or neuroscience or presentation of data or Python, or I'm trying to think of subjects here, but there's so many subjects. My knowledge of AI is tiny at the moment, and I'm sitting there in a pub kind of going, hey, can you see what AI can do at the moment? And it's just so much more to learn from people who are playing around with these tools. And knowledge sharing at any kind of event is something where, as long as it's championed, it works really effectively. Sophie?
I was just going to add, the only thing is really we're trying to just make it as accessible as possible to everyone. Unlike a lot of conferences where like prices are super high and people have to really like push for like learning and development budgets and things like that from their teams and their bosses and things like that. I mean, we've been working really closely with a lot of sponsors. We've got the likes of Majestic and Mirador, Studio Hawk, AWR, the Hooga Marketing Co. We've got a whole list of them to keep these tickets as low as possible. And I know at OMG as well, you're running a 50% discount code, which is just incredible. But the more we can do that and the more we can make that accessible, the more likely we are going to be able to get newcomers coming and really engaging this event as well. So yeah.
And Sophia is so cheap. Like the hotel that you can stay in a hotel for 5 nights for like 100 quid, and it might be terrible, but you know, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, I think I think on that note, so Aleda and I, we're staying in the same hotel, which is apparently right next to the venue. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like accommodation, you can get some nice accommodation, it's affordable. I've been to Sofia once, but I can say it's a beautiful city. We will be experiencing some culture, I think, while we're there, in the form of at least wine tasting. I know we're doing, if that counts as culture.
Oh, yeah.
There's 2 elements of the wine tasting. One of them, Judith is running a session as part of the unconference on how to tell the different wines. And secondly, anybody who bought a VIP ticket, we're kind of arranging a wine tasting event thing the night before, which is a shame because Natalia's going to turn up so late that all the wine will be drunk. But
the flights have been changed and I cannot do anything about it. But the Bulgarian wine is absolutely brilliant. I do recommend it for everyone who's going.
Some wine for you, but basically, you know, the VIP wine tasting, we're going to do everything we can to make sure the best experience for everybody. And it's not just about the wine, it's not just about the food, it's about the people, it's about great sights, and there's a lot to see in Sofia, apparently.
Brilliant. So actually that brings me on nicely to my last question. So I imagine we've got lots of people watching this webinar, and there might be some people that they haven't bought their ticket yet. Make sure you use code 50% to get, or the OMG code to get 50% off. But they might still be on the fence about whether they're going to come along. So for those people, what's the one thing you would say to try and convince them to come along to take it offline in Bulgaria? Who'd like to start?
I can start. I have a quick one. I think this is the type of event that stands out and creates memories. So if you want to create memories with SEO community in the background as well, this is the place.
Love that. Thanks, Natalia. Oh, I think, Aleda, you're on mute.
Sorry, it's true. I love it. Natalia, I think that creating memories has to do a lot with developing real connections with one another. I believe that one of the major cons of big conferences is that at many of them is pretty much a hello and goodbye while you're having or networking with yet another person that you are going to be able to talk only 5 minutes. Because there are so many people and so much stuff going on. I love that. I believe that this is the type of event or on conference where you will be able to actually hang out and interact and develop a real connection, in-depth connection with other SEOs, knowledgeable SEOs at many different areas that can facilitate your life in the future, also to assess doubts, questions, opportunities, etc. So it's about building real relationships, unlike, unfortunately, many other events due to their nature restrictions, right? So yeah, very looking forward to actually meet for real many people, to develop in-depth relationship with them and get them to know also in a much more laid back environment, and all of this additional fun networking events that will be a lot of fun too. Also, I thought that they were going to give away something very cool. I don't know how, like free accesses to Mirador Local and free accesses to OMG Center. I don't know, like free stuff. I was like, sorry, maybe I misunderstood.
Love it.
Dan's in charge of that.
I love it. I guess my one-liner to get people there, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I travel a lot. So the last time I went to Sofia was in 2017, and it was honestly one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It's got all the culture, the architecture, there's so much to do. So if you really want to mix digital marketing at a really super cheap price with a genuinely gorgeous location, TIO is definitely the place to do it. Because as everyone said, the connections and the memories, it can't be beaten.
Love that. Thanks, Sophie.
Yeah, I think just to add a quick ending to that for those who potentially get L&D budget to kind of attend events. I've been fortunate, along with Sophie and other people on this webinar, to have gone to conferences in many different countries. Take it offline, regardless where it is. Harbour's a very different atmosphere from an L&D perspective, and rather than just seeing a set handful of talks or presentations, the connections you make really help integrate further into just the wider SEO community. And because it's more close-knit in terms of the conference size itself, you get better connections and just longer-term knowledge sharing and better relationships really within SEO.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Jerry, what's the one thing you would say to finally convince people to come along to take it offline?
I don't think I've got much more to add to that. I mean, basically, like I say, that the critical part about it is the fact that make sure you speak to a couple of people, make sure you listen to people. 2 ears, 1 mouth, but make sure you do ask questions. My kind of classic thing is the fact that, you know, if you ask a stupid question, you learn stuff. If you don't ask a stupid question, you just kind of stay stupid. It's that kind of classic thing where it's surprising how many people are kind of too afraid to ask questions, but you find out that everybody's got the same kind of questions. I mean, I've got so many questions about Edge SEO. I've got so many questions about AI. I've got so many questions about everything. And I'm kind of constantly shocked and surprised by how much I can learn at the moment. Things are changing more rapidly than anything else. My knowledge of e-commerce SEO, I thought was expert kind of a year ago, but I've just looked at the SERPs recently and I'm like, they've looked totally different this week compared with several weeks ago. So what I know today is so out of date in so many ways, and it's constantly out of date because things are changing rapidly now. So come along, learn stuff, and also like connect with people. Make sure that you start to kind of build those connections of people, non-competitors. You know, there's a guy in the chat at the moment, Manuel, and he speaks about App Store optimization, and that's a field which I've often wanted to know more about, and I have no idea basically how to kind of learn about some of the bits and pieces, because the only way to do it is to kind of get your hands dirty or speak to somebody else who's doing it. And it's amazing how many people aren't sort of, you know, sharing all this kind of knowledge. So somewhere that you can come and sit and kind of go, yeah, but what about this or what about that? And oh, I tried that, but this doesn't work. And people will share this information now. So yeah, I'll be running a session. I'm sure Dan will be running a session on AI after his not AI, Edge, after his kind of panel. And Natalia's an expert on international SEO. Aleda's an expert on everything and will be on the honest panel. Sophie will be on one of the honest panels about the weird, dodgy black hat stuff she gets up to. And so we're all kind of going to be, you know, able to share and answer questions on things that you wouldn't normally be able to learn about.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I think because we'll share the link to the website in a moment. And I think with that, if you do go and have a look on there, because the full agenda is available now on the website, you'll see in terms of the types of topics that people are already want to discuss, and the range of people that are coming along. And obviously that's still open to be added to as well. And I think it just, yeah, to your point about there being such a nice mix of people and expertise are going to be in one place. So that's going to be fantastic. Brilliant. So I think, yeah, we'll wrap up now. Thank you so much, guys, for your time, Jerry, Dan, Natalia, Sophie, and Aleda. So for everyone listening, I hope that gave you a good taster into what to expect from Take It Offline and why you should come along. And we really would love to see you there. So if you'd like to get a ticket, make sure you go to takeitoffline.co.uk, use the promo code OMG to get 50% off. Okay, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. See you there.
Yeah, I'll see you soon, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.